Okay, we're live.
Oh, we're live again.
I will not smack the table. I will not smack the table.
We need to put foam on the table.
I will not smack the table. It doesn't make any difference. And we got to find something else to smack.
Oh,
Smack the wall.
Professor P says he would love to come on live with you guys on a Wednesday.
Okay, well, set it up. Set it up. Rude Mopar dude. He's first person back in here. Sorry about that, guys. We have this thing where if you disturb, so I smacked the table playing around, and like that's how every one of these lives ends lately. I smack the table, he smacks the table, and you smacked the table last week.
I did, or a couple weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So where were we?
Yeah, when we smacked the table, we found that it actually crashes the internet.
Yeah, we have to reboot the whole computer. Right, exactly. Let's see. I enjoy the soul talk. I like shoes.
Okay.
Okay, Dean. That's cool. Oi!
Yeah, we're back. Yeah. We're back now for a little while till the next person smacks the table.
Yes.
In a fit of frustration.
None of you guys smack the table, okay? No smacking of the table. Danny Boy, Tony, did my long comment get shadow banned on today's video? I didn't see. I have no idea.
Oh, speaking of today's video, you're gonna have to fill me in. What do you mean I didn't?
I'm not gonna hit the table again.
Well, we'll just pretend like you did. What do you mean you didn't see my video?
Right, exactly.
Mozzarella.
I put out videos. How could you not see them?
I haven't seen it. I've been busy. My phone has been ringing incessantly all day. It hasn't stopped. I haven't had time to watch any videos. I put one up yesterday, and the first time I looked at it was about 10 minutes before I came up here. Right? And it's doing pretty good.
Yeah. He's a champion. Mr. Rodder's Neighborhood. In case you guys don't know his channel, it's Mr. Rodder's Neighborhood. So go over there, and you do mostly. What do you do mostly?
I work on really weird stuff like Stanley steamers.
Now don't do that, because people who don't know the channel are going to go over there and say,
"Where's the Stanley steamer
car?"
I work on Buicks. There's pretty much all Buick. I even have a suburban Buick Power, and
which I used to tow once, and it worked really well.
Well, it does even better when I get the carburetor ironed out, which it made a huge difference.
It was a little thirsty.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
It was a little thirsty.
But now I'm putting a switch pitch in it. So
and you did a whole video on that.
On the switch pitch, yeah.
You did a video on the mysterious and enigmatic Buick switch pitch torque converter, which is a leftover from the Dynaflow days.
Yep,
like you're a Buick person, right? Dynaflow, okay? Dallas is the guy to put the flow in the Dynaflow.
I do actually a Dynaflow dance on the video.
Exactly, the Dynaflow shuffle.
Yeah.
So, he's got all that stuff on his channel.
Yeah, Clint Street Machine says he likes my channel.
Really?
Yeah.
Very good. St. Telegraph, I would love to come and do a live with you guys on Wednesday. Set it up, man. You're more than welcome. You're more than welcome.
Tony in Dallas, have you been following Alan Millyard's new build, 4-cylinder, 2-stroke?
Cowie? I haven't seen that one, but I mean, he's done that before. Yeah, he's done 4-cylinder, 5-cylinder, 6-cylinder. He's done all different variations on the Cowie 2-stroke. And if you guys aren't familiar with Millyard, if you don't even have to be a motorcycle person. It has nothing to do with being a motorcycle person. If you're like a backyard guy or a garage guy, your home garage guy, you like to build, you like to fabricate, you like to do all that stuff. This guy, Alan Millyard, is your god. Okay, there is nobody on earth that does a more. He takes these engines, he takes these motorcycle engines, he cuts them all apart with a hacksaw. Okay, cuts them all. You've seen, right?
No, I haven't watched any of it.
He takes. He'll take like a Kawasaki 3 or a triple, right? He cuts the things apart with a hacksaw, cuts the blocks, cuts the cranks, right? And then he welds them all back together again to form all of these different incarnations of these engines. And when he's finished, you can't tell it's not completely factory. There are no seams. There's no. It's like the guy is just off the chain. I can't say enough about the craftsmanship of his work. Then he puts them in these motorcycles and he completely restores the motorcycles. And you would swear to God that, yes, Kawasaki had to build a 5-cylinder 2-stroke because there it is, and it's exactly the way Kawasaki would have done it. Just absolutely amazing. You got to see this guy in action.
Huh. Well, I haven't seen it, and so I'm kind of.
You need to watch it.
I still think I want to try to. I don't know if there's any possible way, but if you could make a 4-stroke into a 2-stroke, I don't see why you couldn't.
Not really. Not really.
No. Damn.
I mean, I don't see how you could do that. I mean, you'd have to eliminate the valves. You'd have to pour through the side of the block.
Right, bore through it, drill a hole on it so that it'll water so that exhaust can get out, right? And then you would just make a simple reed valve at the top, just like you would on an air compressor.
You know, why don't you look and see if somebody's done it?
I don't know. I think it would be kind of neat though.
It would be neat, but it's beyond my scale as far as like.
I just think it'd be kind of neat to have a V8 2-stroke. I mean, imagine the torque that sucker would make.
The Dougster has returned unscathed.
Well, that's good.
Complete. He's complete. Let's see. Nuke Exploder. Hi, Tony. You think the inclusion of the aluminum block engine was a positive change in the auto industry? I'm having a lot of concerns. We are seeing ex-Bronco engines blow up at 10,000 miles.
What's Bronco? Like a truck?
I guess.
Ford Bronco?
Yeah. Well, I mean, aluminum engines are hit and miss. In racing applications, they're stronger than cast iron. There's more flexibility to them. But I mean, they've been troublesome in regular car applications
from the get-go. Even the 215, the very first one, they were leaking water into the pan. That's what actually the demise of the 215 was. But that led to the aluminum Chevrolet big block and small block, right?
Yep.
But the Can-Am motors, have you ever seen them work outside of Can-Am, like on a street application?
Well, I mean, they're out there, but they've been, the Chevy Vega engine. But the Chevy Vega engine was a little bit different because it was like, let's do an aluminum motor and not have steel liners in it. I mean, it was like, that was just dumb, okay? That was just dumb. But, I mean, you look at like the North Star. The North Star is the most notorious of them all.
Oh, man.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, head bolt problems. Velocity problems. Those things would literally sweat oil. I had customers when I was in New York. I had customers that had those things, right?
Well, I remember them being like, well, the first few years were fine, but after you got some miles on them, they were overheating machines, right?
Oh, yeah.
And once you got them one time, they're effed. Like you're literally disassembling the motor, deck of the block, machine in the head, the whole 9 yards.
And everything on those cars was difficult. Remember changing the alternator on them?
Right.
The water-cooled alternator?
No.
Because, we need a water-cooled alternator.
Yeah, of course, it gets so hot.
And then, of course, there's a notorious starter
in the valley.
Right, in the valley. It's just a nightmare. But the aluminum block part of it was like the big issue because you had the thing with the threads pulling out. You had to put those time inserts in them. We're not certain time certs. And the blocks used to actually sweat oil. They were so porous. The castings are so porous down below, like around the pan rail area, that they would sweat oil. Like I remember those cars were popular in New York. Those engines were popular in New York, and it was always wherever your pour hose was parked on a regular, there was always oil stains. And it was only like a 2-year-old car, 3-year-old car.
I remember when they were new, and the big thing was. Do you remember swapping the North Star into hot rods was like a big thing for like about a year period, right? And I'm like, ever since then, I've always been hooked on it. Like, oh man, the North Star is awesome because it did make good power for as many cubic inches as it was. It was like 4.6 liter and was like 300 horse or 265 horse or something. It was pretty high at the time. I mean, today it sounds like an absolute paperweight turd, but trust me, when those came out, it was a freaking evolutionary step. Everything was, I mean, the most horsepower thing around was like a 350 TPI motor, whether they were like 100 or 220 horse.
Rocky Myers, North Star, aka Death Star. Yeah. I got a super chat here. Danny K. Thank you for the super chat, my brother. Absolutely loved your video about the Pontiac and the current state of America. Thank you for all you do, UTG. Thank you. I greatly appreciate that, man. And not just the cash, but the sentiment.
People say I remember North Star swaps barf, right? Like it was a cool thing to do at the time, and luckily shortly around that same time the LT replaced the small block Chevy, the TPI, right? And then the LT ended up getting swapped into just about everything, and then it went to the LS. So
I used to do head gaskets in those, and I didn't have the way I was set up to work. I didn't have a facility to drop the motor off from the bottom, so I was doing North Star head gaskets in the car.
oh,
And I had it done to a science. You know what I mean? I had the wrenches
how
bent
do you
just
do
the
that
right way to
back
get in the
head
back.
though?
Please, it
Oh.
was a nightmare, but I got them done. You know what I mean? But I hated those.
So Abel D says, "Hello, handsome devils. Thanks
You're
to you
sweet.
guys, I bought my first ever motorbike, 74 Honda Trail CT90.
Oh,
$600, right? That's a good price. That's a really good price. They're usually going around 12.
That's awesome. Abel D. Oh God, what channel is it? If you just bought one of those bikes, I'm trying to think of the channel, okay? But they took two guys. They took a brand new Trail 125 and a CT90, okay, and they ran them across Alaska, okay, 1,000 miles wide open, right? That was like, because you can't just let off the throttle. It's like a 45-mile-an-hour bike. So this thing went 1,000 miles wide open, and then so there's that video, and it made it all the way to the end. It made it to about like 20 feet from the finish line. Like they actually had to push it the last like. But anyway, make a long story short, then they followed that up with an ASMR video where they tore this thing down to the bare absolute nothing and then put it back together again. So I don't know how you look up ASMR Honda Trail and see what comes up there. If you just got one of those videos of one of those bikes, you'll love that.
That inspired me to get it.
Oh, so, did it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, the streaming services, television streaming services, for about 2 years, I didn't have anything except for Amazon Prime.
Okay.
And that's because it came with your already pre-existing Prime membership, right? And so you're looking for car shows, and of course Amazon Prime didn't have any car shows for like the longest time. They did something with like the MT guys for a short period of time, and I think that's gone now too. But they had a show on there. There was an off-road challenge where they literally drove through the outback of Alaska, through the tundra of Alaska for like 1,000 miles to the most northern point of Alaska.
Yeah, that's what these guys did with these two motorcycles.
Well, there was no road, right? And these guys did it with all home-built stuff. So like one dude had a Land Cruiser with a 350 Chevy in it, and another person had like a Jeep with a diesel, and it's all home-built off-road stuff. And there's literally no trails. All you can use is a winch. And it was a freaking awesome show. It was like a month, or it was about a month long.
What was the name of it? Do you remember?
I do not remember, and that's what I was hoping. Maybe somebody knew that one.
Mike Gibbs, Outlaw Funny Car. Mike, what's happening, man? Mike's up there in Smyrna. Well, Tony, I hope all's well with you, buddy. Hey, yeah, everything's awesome. See you having fun on the internet. I just bought my last funny car. You bought your last funny car? You done? Why?
If he's up in Smyrna, how come you're not up there wrenching on this thing?
I don't know. He never says, "Hey, come up and wrench on my funny car." I haven't talked to Mike in a few years. He's a good guy. Mike, we got Franco jumps in here too. He's one of the old Northeast funny car guys. You two would get along real good.
Shade Tree Garage says, "Howdy there, UTG. Really started pushing my engine building rebuilds in my area, thanks to you and me subscribing many moons ago."
Good deal, man.
There you go. That's what the name of it is. Alaskan Extreme Off-Road Challenge.
Okay, that's pretty much what you described.
It was a really, really cool show, though. I mean, they were literally in the middle of nowhere, right? These guys busted a hole in the radiator, just dumped pepper in there and filled in the hole. But when they were all done, like all those vehicles were extremely clapped out, right? I mean, like you just park them and you're done.
It's done. Let's see. One by Johnny Horton. I don't know. Let's see. When am I interviewing the great Ian Russell? Let me know if you need me to contact him. I mean, if have him reach out to us. I don't want to bother the guy. I don't want to like, what I mean? I don't want to oh, hey, big fan. I want to get on my show. I don't want to bother the guy. If he wants to come on here, with us or with me or however you want to do it, let him contact us. UncleTony'sGarage@gmail.com. Or here's the easiest way, right? Tell him to friend me on Facebook and send me a message there.
Oh yeah, John Wilburn's pushing what we're doing next Wednesday. Announcement: special show next Wednesday on the UTG channel.
Oh, this is gonna be fun.
No Name 500 guys, especially, will want to tune in, and this is specifically what is it designed to boost the No Name 500 guys' ability to make a video that's going to grab your attention. And
I don't know what the purpose of it is exactly.
Me neither. I was just throwing it out there. I was trying to. Oh, that's what's going on. You get some grease on your face from that. From that rag.
Do I?
Yeah. You did you had it on your nose.
That's all right.
Yeah, well, also, and John's bringing it up and is reminding me of this show, right? He worked it out with you, this show?
Yeah, we talked about it this morning. So what we're planning on doing, okay, well, I mean, I'm just along for the ride. And again, I got to throw a disclaimer out there. I have nothing to do with the No Name Nationals. I'm just supporting my friends. This is their event, right? So next Wednesday night, we're going to have, I'm going to get Mopar Al here and the Junkyard Jet Kids and Dallas.
And we're going to powwow in this little room?
No. We'll do it in the shop. Because I don't want to be that close. I don't want to be this close to you.
Yeah, I know. We need to turn the air up in all these places right now.
Yes. So we'll figure out a comfy place to do it. We'll do it at my house. We'll do it in my backyard.
We might be able to do that too.
Okay. And we're gonna watch clips from the No Name National guys, the No Name National 500. So we get a chance to sample all of their various, what they do. So it'll be fun. It'll definitely be fun.
Is this gonna be like Mystery Science Theater 3000?
It could be.
Where it's like YouTube clips and then we're beating on all these guys.
That's if we can get Putin, Austin to come back now, because he went. He sends me a picture today, right? I got.
What is he, off the grid?
No. So Austin, right? Junkyard Jet Austin. Hang on here. He sends me this picture. Here we go. Austin sends me this picture. So he went jet or water skiing, jet skiing, whistling Diesel. So he's on another, he's the biggest Whistling Diesel fan. Even their logo, he ripped off the Whistling Diesel logo for the Daddy's Money Garage logo. So he went to Smithville today.
So does he not even know who you are now? He walks by
Austin?
Hey Austin, are you gonna get the jet finished up?
Right, yeah.
Peasant.
Yeah, exactly, right.
How dare you talk to me?
Able to Ian said he's down for a Sunday evening chat. Excellent. I sent you an Ultra Cat the email with his contact info. Thank you very much. I will contact him today, and we'll set up for Sunday, because I was trying to get Steve. Steve is busy. Manyanti. But if I can't get him, Ian is. I forget about him. We'll do Ian on Wednesday night, on Sunday night. Thank you, man. I appreciate you setting that up. Yeah, Jerry. Wow, Austin and Whistling Diesel. I'm never going to hear the end of this. Everything I do is now going to be going to. Cody would do it different. You're not as good as Cody. You're not as big as Cody. You watch.
All right. So Paul Cabiozola says, video suggestion, please show us how to build a still and convert our carburetors to run on alcohol.
We have a guy who's a regular on. He's a regular commenter, and he's got a channel and everything. Thumper, the fat, sweaty guy, right? That's his whole thing, right? Yeah, Cody can throw a carburetor further, right? I know. You watch, he's gonna make a carburetor. So, what do you call that? Trebuchet?
Trebuchet, yeah.
Anyway, Thumper, okay, is like that's his total thing. He bruises on alcohol. He runs all of his cars. He's a Pontiac guy. He runs all of his stuff on alcohol. I need to talk with him next time I see him pop in here. Maybe we can collaborate on something with that. That would be interesting. I have never see. I went straight from street racing and gasoline to blowers and nitro, and I missed that whole middle ground. Right. So I'm me and alcohol. I've never in my life touched anything that ran on alcohol, other than to just. Oh no, I shouldn't say that. I crewed an alcohol funny car once, but I have no practical working knowledge of the stuff. He does, so we'll talk to him about that.
Doug Narden asks, will there be a carb throwing or cam throwing competition at No Name Nationals? We had not planned on it. If you want to donate a whole bunch of Holly carburetors, that would be totally beneficial.
Well, I mean, your Holly carburetors roll between 11 and 12 pounds each, where your Edelbrocks and Carters are only about 8 pounds.
Well, if you really want to do it to somebody, let them throw one of those freaking what is that thing? Man, what is that carburetor I gave you?
Oh, Demon.
The Demon,
yeah.
Those
are 40
You're
pounds.
going to need a trebuchet to throw it.
Those are about 40 pounds. I have no idea how they made a carburetor so heavy. It's almost like they had an engineer.
It's made entirely out of nickel.
Right, yeah. Tungsten.
Tungsten, yes.
They have to have somebody who's like a full-time engineer that his only job is to add weight to this carburetor.
How much can you get on this? Oh man, if we just took a complete solid block of tungsten and then just drilled passages in it for gasoline, that would be it. Carb cam baseball. I like it. I can see someone getting hurt though. Swing the cam around.
Predator carburetor.
Yeah.
I worked for that douchebag that owned Predator carburetor. He was a funny car guy. I worked for him for a couple of races.
Jason Fitch says that carburetor was made from Mallory, which I'm assuming is Mallory
Mallory
which is
yeah.
tungsten, right? I'm pretty sure that is tungsten. Unless he means depleted uranium.
Don, I notice you don't put filters into it. Some filters are for ladies.
What does it say? Abel D says, Dallas, open up your Instagram. Go to your DM and see my stupid trailer.
It's ridiculously stupid looking Mad Max.
All right. I haven't seen it. And I'm the world's worst person at using Instagram because between Instagram and Twitter, I think I have like 11 followers combined, right?
Yeah.
I'm not good at either one of them and I don't like them.
I'm the same way. I got an Instagram and I have no idea. I don't even know how to get into it. Like I know there's a password, but I don't know what it. So Kathy would occasionally post stuff on Instagram but I don't know how to get in there. I can't follow it. I tried. It's like it's beyond me. I just stay away from it.
No Name Nationals Carnage Hall of Shame Broken Parts Contest. Now that might be something worthwhile having. Like we actually set up a No Name Nationals, say like it'd be like an anti trophy case, like the opposite of a trophy case, right? Like here's an oil pan that had all 8 rods come out, right?
My brother Ralph and I were gonna open. This is back when we were in New York. We lived in New York, and I had the coffee house, right? So I like the whole idea of the nightlife type of thing.
Right? Oh, right.
So we were going to open a bar, okay, for motorcycle people called Skids.
Oh.
Okay, right. So the whole idea with this bar now was that every motorcycle guy has the stuff that they crashed. Okay, they keep a souvenir, right?
Right.
So it could be a cracked helmet. Could be. I kept a giant scab for a while. I had a scab. Like it was like this big, and I hung it up on my wall.
That'd be disgusting. I wouldn't want to use
I'm just saying,
we should wear it as a helmet.
I could have. So, but every motorcycle guy has the stuff that they crashed, right? Especially like sport bike guys. We had a lot of sport bike friends. I was into sport bikes then. So we were going to decorate this place, right, with broken parts and crutches and casts and stuff like that. The whole place, that was the motif. Was going to be the motif of the place.
Right.
You came in, you had your trophy, whatever it was.
The crash
we
wall.
put it up on the wall with a little paragraph telling how you broke it and so on and so forth. But we never did it. We never did it.
I always wanted to open like a I don't know what you would call it, like a sports bar at the drag strip where you had like you serve steaks and pizzas and stuff like that in a restaurant, but you also had like drinks, right?
Mhm.
And I always wanted to call it the strip club because it was just like the opposite of what you would think a strip club would be, right? But it just, of course, I don't own a track, so that just never came to fruition.
Danny Boyd, I've got a piece of the fairing from the Honda Shadow my buddy died on. I'll do better than that. For years, I had my buddy Dead John's bike, and it was the bike he died on. He was on his way to my house for a party, and he got cut off, and he crashed this thing, and he flew over a car and landed on like this concrete thing that hit him right in the middle of the leg. But he was a tough guy, so he got up, brushed himself off. The bike was a little tweaked, the handlebars a little bent and stuff like that, but that was about it. So he rode to my house, right? And I'm sitting in front of the house in a chair, and he pulls up next, and he gets out. And there's just a party going on. And he says, "Man, I crashed my bike." And he says, "Oh, that's pretty fucking cool. You made it here, right?" He says, "Yeah, it's all right, no big deal." He says, "My leg hurts." So he takes his fucking pants off, right? And his leg, right here, right, is black. I mean, as black as my shirt, right?
So I said, did he get like that main artery in his thigh?
Yeah, so I says, "Brother, man, you better go to the fucking hospital, man. You're gonna die, right?" So he says, "No, I'm fine. Give me a beer, right?" So I give him a fucking beer, and he says, "You sure?" I says, "That's a mess. I've never seen anything that bad." He says, "Oh, I'm fine. Don't worry about it." So that night, he couldn't get back on the bike and ride. He left the bike at my place. His wife Lydia comes to pick him up, drives him home, and I get a call from her in the morning saying that he died. And that night on the toilet bowl, he went home. He sat on the toilet and just that was it. He died. A blood clot broke loose from his leg and hit him in the heart. But I fixed the bike and I rode the bike for I don't know, probably a year or two. I got rid of it when I moved down here. Let's see.
Yeah, bled to death internally. That's right,
Yeah.
Danny Boyd.
Well, they said it was a blood clot. A blood clot broke loose from that and went up in it and got him in the heart.
That's horrible, though. That's a terrible way to go. But see, also, like, all right, lesson learned. If you have a freaking horrific bruise, go to the hospital and get it checked out. I mean, I can see like the little brown, the blackish brown purpley thing that you get when you hit your arm on something or whatever.
Yeah.
But
no, this is black.
Yeah, if it's as dark as like your blood without oxygen in it, go to the hospital.
Alan McElroy, he told me, since you have some experience with bikes, figured to say, have a 1983 Honda CM250. Yeah, it's a twin star. Those are good little bikes. Nice on gas. One I was showing at some point is an 80s Honda V65 Magna. Those V65s pop up pretty cheap. And those twin stars are great little bikes. And those, that's the one that they later on, they called it a Rebel. They changed the tank and they put like a little custom seat on there. And they called that a Rebel. But yeah, those are great little bikes.
Nemo the Pimpfish says his dad had a 750 triple Cali. I learned how to ride quickly.
You learn how to ride quick on that, right? Yes. Mike Batista, that Honda basket case, what a nightmare. I'm gonna sell the bike. I'm gonna sell it. I'm happy. I got 5 bikes, and one I gave to my kid. I'm content. I don't want more than that. So I'm gonna off that Honda. I'm not gonna bother with it. Big Red Channel 20 V65s are cheap for a good reason. I know, but the guy wants one. He'll learn the ins and the outs of it. You really have to be devoted to those bikes. So you really have to love that bike. It's not like a VMAX. VMAX are pretty bulletproof. The V65s, lots of little troubles with those.
Hey, so I pulled up. I saw Blinky is getting completely disassembled. Did nobody come and pick that body up?
No, well, I've been trying to sell the body. I
thought some dude was going to come pick it up.
He was going to, and no. So now we're parting it out.
Oh, that sucks.
No. I'm glad to have it gone. Screaming Seaman, what's the top speed of Honda Groms? About 50.
I think Danny Boyd wanted Blinky to stick around.
Yeah, no, done. I had too many people that were like, yeah, well, I'll go run that car. I'll take it to autocross. I'll do this. I'll do that. Nobody, right? So I'm like, you know what? I don't. It's just a lump. It's just in my way. I have no interest in it. Bye. Let's see.
Joe K says you'll part the Miata out all the way down to dust and powder.
Probably. I don't think we're gonna go that far. It's not like a moped where I got secret stuff I gotta try to sell.
I think Winky was around longer than that. I think Winky was a 2020 project, wasn't it?
No, the Winky was the first thing that I did when I moved into the shop.
Oh, all right.
Clayton, do you need a flex joint on an exhaust with headers?
No.
No.
Hey, so there was one that blew right by. Some guy was asking about a flex plate, and he was swapping a 360 Magnum into a 77 D100 or something.
Oh, I missed that.
I know, that's why you blew right past it.
Well, I'm saying hi to Ari.
Right here.
What's going on, Ari?
John Stipetich.
Okay.
JJ here. I'm swapping a 77 318 LA for a 97 360 Magnum into my 77 D100. What flex plate, flywheel, and torque converter do I need to work with the 727? It's a 97 360 Magnum.
97 360 Magnum. Okay. You're going to need a neutral balance. No. You're gonna need. All right. The converter on a 360 Magnum is balanced differently than the converter on a 360 LA motor. So you're gonna need a Magnum specific. The flex plate is gonna be the same. You won't have any problem with the flex plate, but the converter balance is different between a 360 LA and a 360 Magnum. There's less weight on the Magnum. Let's see. Danny Boyd, exhaust mounts which allow for some flex are good though. Well, here's the thing, right? The like a header, especially a long tube header, is got so much flex already built into it. You know what I'm saying? Like the typical long tube header under the car, once that's bolted solid to the engine, I mean, you could just grab the collector and just move it, half an inch in any direction, and there you won't have any problem. Throttle Davidson being in flex plate balance for that app. Yeah, exactly. They sell balanced kits, so you can just weld the piece that you need on there. Yeah, use the stock 727 converter, but it has to be balanced to the Magnum, not to the LA.
Let's see. Chaz Otto says, is an AMC 290 worth anything? A neighbor gave me one today. It's just a long block.
Yeah.
Well, AMC guys would cut their arm off for it. Any of the AMC V8s, I think they're all the same size, right?
Yeah.
So like all those parts will fit on a 401 or a 304 or a, what's the one in between it? They had 360, 390.
Yeah, besides the point, somebody's got a 304 in a Jeep, you know what I mean, and it's just tired or whatever, they'd swap that 290 into it. It's essentially the same engine.
And it's a good engine. I always heard the AMC V8s were actually really good engines. Matter of fact, Wally Booth ran one in Pro Stock.
Yeah, the 401. Those heads, actually,
they made the heads, right?
I remember them raving, the whole Wally, if they're in that Wally Booth era, I remember them raving about the flow on the exhaust side of those heads.
I got a picture of one I posted on Facebook not too long ago on the AHRA page. He had cut those heads long ways and welded 3 heads together. They were stacked together like a sandwich and then furnace brazed them all, right? And it said, your Pro Stock, your Pro Stock car building skills are not the same as Wally Booth's Pro Stock building skills, right?
That was in Super Stock and Drag Illustrated.
Was it?
Yeah, I have that. Nostalgic Northerner, thank you for the super chat. My weekend driver is an 83 Olds Delta 88, 307, low mileage and mint. Have you ever owned any Delta 88s feeling nostalgic? I have never owned, maybe I'm lying.
I had a Cutlass with a 307 in it, and it got really good mileage, and it still ran pretty good too. It was the roller cam variant with the quadrojet carburetor.
Okay, but I know those Deltas, those 80s Deltas, I literally know them like the back of my hand because I spent. See, back in that era, like the middle to late 80s, I was doing the magazines, but I was also running a shop out of my house. My across the street neighbor, John Taddeo, who he died a couple of years ago from pancreatic cancer, but this guy was brilliant. He was a fireman, okay, and he ran a used car business out of his house across the street from me. So I had my shop in my garage, and I'd work a lot in my driveway, and he had his shop in his garage, and he worked in his driveway. This is in New York City. This isn't like in the sticks or anything. This is actually in New York City. And like he had his business going there, and right across the street, I had my business going. And so he sold those Deltas like there was no tomorrow. I worked on probably 2 or 3 of those things a week for years. Right? You name it, did it. I know those cars like the back of my hand, and they're fantastic. But I don't believe I ever owned one.
Well, and they were all like they all had that 204R transmission, which was prone to like no longer working after 60,000 miles. Just as the Grand National guys.
Big Billy Racing saying that Booth and Aaron's machine shop out just outside of Detroit was still open a few years back.
Huh. It'd be kind of cool if it was still open and go there and do a tour.
Irish Outlaw Garage just dropped me 74 Javelin off to get a line this morning. It's the longest nose.
Well, that's the one that made me think of, like, if you were to make a car called the Javelin, what would the front of it look like? That's it. That is it. I mean, it nailed it.
It is the longest. If you guys haven't seen like I guess 71, I think they started that body. And then by the time they got to 74, they kept adding length to the front of it. So like the distance between the front wheel and the front bumper is
I know what it was.
Ginormous.
No, remember in 73 they came out with those those crash bumpers. What is his name? The freaking the
Ralph Nader.
Ralph Nader bumpers, right? And it added like a foot to that car, and it made it look completely disproportionate.
But they're neat. They're neat at the same time. What's a Matador? That's an old commercial, man. That's an old commercial. You have to be my age to know that.
Well, my buddy was asking me the other day. He said, "Man, I was watching Breakfast at Tiffany's the other day, and they were in some kind of taxi, and I couldn't figure out what kind of car it was." I'm like, "Was it an AMC, a Matador, an Ambassador?" And he's like, "Oh shit, I need to go back and watch it because it might have been now." Now that you bring it up, I'm like, "Yeah, those are they're hard to tell what they are." Those later run Javelins with the big long nose, they always had like the funkiest looking wheels on them, right? They always had that weird looking center cap that looked like it was 4 inches sticking out in the very center, but it was only like an inch in diameter, right? Real small, real weird looking.
My first hot rod job, I was 15, okay, and I used to hang around. I was hanging around with older guys that had cars. And my first hot rod job, my first task, okay, was I had this friend Nicky the retard. He had a 73 Javelin 304, okay, and my first hot rod job was to put headers on that car. Okay, now, I don't remember the details. I don't remember any of the details because, like I said, I was 15 years old. I was probably high as a kite, right? But it took us days. It took us days to get the headers on this thing, and we took it for a top end run on the West Shore Expressway. So previous to that, the car had gone like 99 miles an hour. Okay? That was it. It was just 99 miles an hour. And we put the headers on it, and we went out to the same stretch of road, and we went 104.
All right.
And it was like, oh, we did. Oh my God, this thing's a rocket, right? We went 104 miles an hour, and and we had no, just it was just the headers. Like there was no rest of the exhaust because like he was broke, and it was like it's as far as we can go. We put headers on it, okay. So we made the one trip out there, and we got to the Outer Bridge crossing, and we turned around, and we were going to make a run on the way back. So he starts building up speed, and it took forever to get there. We get to like 85, 90, 95, 96, 97, and all of a sudden the sound changed and the car started slowing down. One of the headers fell off. It just fell off. It was dragging on the ground. That was my very first hot rod job.
No, I bet he never forgot that one, huh?
No, I wonder whatever happened to Nicky the retard. Doofy, have you ever owned any 87 to 93 Stangs?
Are you kidding me?
I happened to have the IHRA I Pure Stock World Record in an 87 Mustang LX. I raced one of those for a year.
What? Why don't you have the mic closer to you guys? Mexican spec. Do you see how penile this thing looks?
It's actually closer than you think. I mean, here's my arm. It's like here. There's that. See? It's the camera just changes perspective on things.
Plus, Tony thinks it looks extra gay, so we don't want to get it any closer than what it is.
Peter Kovacs, all Tony's friends have cool New York nicknames. Everybody had a nickname. You know, you had to have a nickname.
I wouldn't say that the retard was a good nickname.
That was his name, Nicky the Retard. That's how we knew him.
He says he has his volumes all the way up, and I can hardly hear you guys. Nope, you should be good here.
Scream and Seaman, what do you think of the old Oldsmobile Tornado's front-wheel drive with the 455 V8s? It's an ultimate cruiser, man. It's an ultimate cruiser.
The 425 versions of those were, that was like a legitimate muscle car, right? Yep. They didn't care it was front-wheel drive. It was the bad boy.
If I had one of those cars, if somebody like gifted me one of those cars, or somehow or another I ended up with one of those, or an Eldorado, I would feel compelled to move to Vegas and just drive it up and down the strip all day and all night long. You know what I mean? It was like that's like the ultimate car for that.
Well, do you remember seeing the pictures where they were towing stuff with a load leveling hitch on those cars and they would pull the back tires off?
No.
Yeah, because it didn't have any weight on the back tires because you had a load leveling hitch, right? Okay. So it would just share the weight across the tongue and the load leveling bars, and the car would just ride down the road with no back tire. It looked so weird.
Front drive El Tornado, good to look at, but they have to be a total bullet for wallowing around on the road. They weren't as bad as the rear drive cars of the day. I mean, all of those cars wallowed, but that was part of the thing, man. You know, like if you had a big, giant, full-size GM car or Ford, Chrysler's never really wallowed because of the torsion bars. They're pretty solid. But like part of the whole experience of those giant, like middle 70s Fords and GM cars was the wallowing.
The Buick Wildcat.
Yeah.
It was like literally riding a couch down the street.
Yeah. You know, people think of it as a bad quality. It's like, oh, it wallows. Yeah, but you're not looking at the car in the context in which it was intended to be used.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
You know, I read an article about this years ago, and the reason why the American cars turned out to be the wallowing pigs they did was that they were going for a soft ride.
Right.
And the primary reason that they went for the soft ride and the wallowing that followed it was because I guess apparently one of the road manufacturing machines in California that was owned by the state of California had a bent roller in it, right? So they'd poop out all this road, the 405 freeway, the 5, the whole 9 yards, and they would have a taper in it. So when they get done, they would go out and grade it, try to flatten it out.
Okay.
But your car would always ride like this, right?
Because eventually it's thick.
Well, you get that Buick riding, and it's totally flat, and your tires are out there going up and down like that.
I used to love, like, if you remember, see, again, you got to be old to remember this stuff. Like the cop shows of the 70s, they all used these big giant cars. There was
chips, think chips.
Yeah, there was the obligatory chase scene. You know what I mean? Where they're going through the, you know, and it's like you see they turn the wheel and the car.
I like when the tires leaned over like this, like a bullet.
But that's not how those cars were intended to be used. So, you know, you look at them in that context, and it's like, oh God, what a piece of shit. But when you actually use them in the way they were intended, no, they're perfect.
Well, and my buddy Chris told me something. He said at one time, because I was talking about how ill handling most of those were. He said, you got to think about it. That car is literally one generation away from horse and buggy.
Yeah.
It's like the world is your oyster, right? So HemiHead68
Thank you for
says,
the super chat.
send you a super chat.
Thank you.
Hi guys, are balance shafts, which you would find in an example of a 2.2 liter Mopar, only found on 4 cylinders, i.e., do you find them on V8s?
No.
They're not on V8s because a V8 is more balanced, right?
V8 is more or less self-balancing, well, and a lot that depends on the firing order, but like an inline-6, they're all self-balancing.
Right. But the V6s, you find those balance shafts on, right? The Buick V6 was the first one I ever seen one that had one.
The even fire.
Yes, but it had to be the later front-wheel drive even fire models, like the 87 on up fuel injected ones. I think most of them were like what they call the Series 2.
It's funny because as perfectly balanced, internally balanced as an inline 6 is as weird as
V6 is like
V6.
opposite. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so that's if you didn't know, that's where the even fire and odd fire Buick V6s came from, because they literally just hacked the end of the crank off of a 215 and built a V6 out of it, right? Whereas it came out to the 178, and that evolved into the 225. But those things were set up just like a V8 throw. So there was a point in there which was like 120 degrees or something, where there was nothing firing. And you remember the distributor caps on them where it had like an 8-cylinder plug wire cap, but it's missing like 2 plug wires on it, right?
Yep.
And it was so out of balance. And that's when they came up with the even fire. They separated the crank where each one of those 6 cylinders had its own throw.
Don't ask me how I know this, okay? This is one of those things that just lodged itself in the back of my head someplace for no reason at all. I can't remember half my relatives' names, okay? Seriously, right? So Doug Narden says, Starsky and Hutch nicknamed the Torino the Tomato. And you're wrong, Doug Narden. Starsky and Hutch never named their car the Tomato. You know who did? Huggy Bear, their pimp buddy, their pimp informant. He's the one that named it a Tomato.
And it's standing right there next to who won the election for the state of North Carolina in 1978.
I don't even know who that is.
Oh, I figured that was right next to that information. I was going to throw something out there.
It's weird information that just gets stored for no reason whatsoever.
Exactly. Why would you remember that? I mean, it's not even a state that you lived in. Nobody was around that you cared about in 1978 in the state of North Carolina.
Screaming Seaman, I'll tell you, did you really get kicked out of school for taking a school bus? I didn't take it, I stole it. And it wasn't a school bus, it was a city bus that they parked out by the school. So, yes, I did really steal a bus because I wanted the blower on it. I was building I was 16, I had a 69 Charger, I had a 440 for it, and I wanted to put a blower on that thing, right? So I found out that the buses, they had V6s, they had GMC V6s, and they had
the 305 V6 with a blower on them.
Yeah. So I says, I'm taking one of those, right? So I even had a spot where I had it all planned out. I grabbed the bus, bring it to the spot. I had everything all worked out where I was going to grab the tools. I knew what to do, right? I did all my research, and then I was going to just liberate the blower and go. And the school cop caught me as I was pulling out of the parking space. And that's how I ended up getting tossed out of high school when I was 16. Best thing that ever happened to me. If you younger guys are watching, right, don't be afraid to steal a bus for the blower because you'll get thrown out of school, but it'll work out well for you.
I don't support that idea. Please don't run out and do that. But because today's blowers or buses don't have blowers, they do have turbos though.
There you go.
And you can buy a Chinese turbo on eBay for less than $100. Problem solved.
Let's see.
You know what I liked about those 305 V6s is that when you open the hood, they kind of look like a W motor with that weird valve cover.
Yep. They're actually good looking motors.
It's not bad, but they're huge. You know, for being a V6 305 cubic inch, gosh, it's huge.
Let's see.
What car was car 54?
Oh, yeah.
I think it changed during the run, didn't it? Wasn't Galaxy?
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, the 305 was GMC's gas V6 no blower, says Danny Boyd.
No, this was the diesel. It was a V6 diesel.
Oh. Oh yeah, 6V53s or whatever they were.
Yeah. Car 54 was a Plymouth. Only Franco would know that. Franco was hanging out with Moses when the rocks were still warm.
When he was carving the first wheel. Oh, the 305 came in pickups and the bus was a Detroit. So it's a Detroit diesel.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
French Onion took the short bus.
I know. And you know, the only reason I didn't know what kind of diesels were in there is because I was busy licking the windows in the diesel bus on the way to school. Because I took the short bus too.
Mopar Man 1970. I like watching episodes of 1 out of 12 TV show. Lots of Mopars. Yeah, they always use Plymouth satellites, Belvedere's.
There's a Vietnamese restaurant down here called Pho 54. I don't know if there's one in Jacksonville, Florida called the Pho King, right? It's like, oh gosh, how did you get away with naming it that?
Vince M. When looking at old pistons, what should I look for to identify if I should use a piston or not? I did a whole video on that, like literally maybe a month ago.
Skirts are a big one. Look at this dude. Like you don't want to reuse that. Oh, you can't see this on the camera.
Yeah, this one got rejected for. I think this one's got a big ring lane. No, this one is distorted. Yeah, it's got it. This one here has
the ashtray piston.
It's got a crazy divot in it, and it's distorted. It's not round anymore. Just search on my channel pistons, and you'll see I did a whole video on reusing pistons and how to identify and all of that other shit. Mostly old parts. What's happening, brother man? Adam Trust's later years, they switched from Plymouth to AMC. That's right. I forgot about that. Like 74.
I like watching older shows and movies just because of that stuff. Like, do you remember the like any of the Dirty Harry movies? He always had cool stuff in them.
Yeah.
Right. The police cars were like hot rod Plymouths and stuff, and it was pretty cool. Or you had, I always like the Chips TV show always had neat stuff on the highway too.
Let me hit 68. Can you drag race using snow tires, i.e. tires that have studs? I had a Dodge Coronet. I was a kid. I had a 67 Coronet, this big block car that I used to race at Fountain Avenue. That was really the only place that car was useful was on Fountain Avenue. So the traction at Fountain Avenue was horrendous. It was like a skating rink.
Why did they choose that place then? Is it isolated?
It was isolated. It was just the place. It was a traditional place. They had been racing there since the 50s, right?
Okay.
So that was my Fountain Avenue car, and I had it was a 3D3, right? I'll get to that bill in a second. It was a 3D3, and I engineered a bog into this car. So what I do is I had a big single plane intake manifold on it, big spacer, and a thermal quad with the air door set super, super loose. So when you'd flat punch it, the car would just go, right?
Yeah.
And it would eke out, and you'd be able to get off the line at Fountain Avenue, and then it would come on like crazy about 10, 20 feet out. It would start to haul really good, and that got you the edge, right? So that was my favorite car for that. But one of the things I experimented with that car is I had a set of these LT tracker tires, or truck tires. They worked well, but then I ended up with a set of studded snow tires. Okay, and I ran that car for a couple of weeks with studded snow tires on Fountain Avenue, and that was a hot setup. That car worked really, really well. Like, you know, I raced. It was like a 14-second car, right? Maybe like a 14:20, 14:30 car. If you had something that let's say a 12-second car or quicker, you didn't stand a chance against my Coronet on Fountain Avenue. Okay, Bill McKeiska. Thank you, sir, for the super chat. In your opinion, what is the best buy? They're originally in the same general condition and don't run or drive at the moment. A 70 to 71 Valiant, a 73, 74 Sports Satellite, or a late 70s Cordova. Oh.
Sports Satellite. I'm trying to think what that looks like. Fuselage. car?
It's a fuselage car. They're great. Or a late 70s Cordova. Roughly, drive.
What are you trying to get? You trying to have just a cruiser?
Yeah, man, because they're all three different cars.
Well, yeah, because I mean, if it was just a cruiser, that 70s Cordova would be hard to beat.
Yeah. I think I would lean towards the Cordova. As long as it's the B body, not the later one where they downsize the M body. Was it an M body? I don't know what body it is. The downsized Cordova. As long as if it's a B body Cordova, that's the one I would.
That'd be a nice cruiser.
Towards. Yeah. Did the studs spark at night? I don't know. I was driving the car. There were no when I retired those tires, there were no studs left. Imagine people standing behind that thing doing burnout.
Oh, yeah. Peter Kovacs brings us something here. He says reverse neutral drops in 71 Cadillac Eldorados. Tires eat a 3-inch divot in the street. So there's two things. One, when I came to the shop today, did somebody do a burnout in front because there was a freaking U-joint cap out there? Right?
I took the drive shaft for a slag hammer to get shortened, so the cap fell off. The burnout marks are from the junkyard jet. The junkyard jet guys picked up a Chuckus, which is
what?
A Chuckus.
Okay.
It's a Honda. It's a Chinese knockoff of a Honda Ruckus.
Oh, right. Okay.
They paid $40 for this thing. It's got a 150cc motor in it, right? So Mopar Al, we were taking turns. We were screwing around up front. So Mopar Al took his turn on it. So he makes his run around, and he got back in front of the shop and he did a burnout with it.
Huh.
So that's where the burnout mark and the U-joint.
I was like,
the same
man, somebody blew a drive shaft up here doing a burnout. Well, okay, so and that makes a lot of sense. The other thing was, this week I ordered a controller box for my switch pitch from a guy near Chicago that's building these things, right?
Okay.
And it uses vacuum and throttle angle to control the switch pitch much more efficient than the switches did from the factory, right? It actually has time delays and stuff like that. It works off minimum vacuum settings, and it freaking goes into a high stall situation. Well, he said, I asked him, I said, people ever use this in towing? He said, you wouldn't believe what people are doing in towing with these things. Guys are taking like that 73 GMC motorhome, like that 3 or 5 ton setup, right? And they're taking the Oldsmobiles out and they pull, because the transmission is actually a transverse version of a Turbo 400. It's a 425, right? And they're putting switch pitches in these transmissions that never came with a switch pitch, ever, right? But any Turbo 400 is virtually, you just can put it in. And so they're putting switch pitches in these GMC motorhomes. And he's like, they're improving their fuel economy from like 9 miles a gallon to 14 miles a gallon towing. It's like, holy crap, that's awesome.
Dalton Peterson wants to know, I'm sure this is right over your. Thank you for the super chat, Dalton. What's the difference in a 1987 700R4 to a 1990, and can you run a 1990 in an 87 Suburban 2-wheel drive?
All right, so the 700s get kind of weird depending on what year. Like 83 to 87 was like the first version of it, which was really weak. I don't necessarily know the parts differences. Somewhere there in like 90 to 94, they took the speedometer drive shaft, the little pigtail for the speedometer,
and turned it into a plug.
And it's got a plug on it so you can run the electronic distributors, right? Now your 1987 2-wheel drive Suburban has an actual speedometer cable. I think the last couple of years of that thing, which was like 90, 91.
No, but you can retrofit the vehicle speed sensor. You can retrofit that.
You probably could, and especially on that Suburban, because that Suburban came the last 2 years with no cable. It actually used the vehicle speed sensor.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Well, the vehicle speed sensor is a direct replacement for the old Speedo gear.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just know that's the known things that I know about those 700R4s. I've never been a 700R4 guy because those generally just bolt up to Chevrolets.
Well, the vehicle speed sensor has the same gear, the same plastic gear as the
Speedo. No. What I'm talking about is it don't even have a fitting for that VSS. It has some kind of reluctor wheel in there with like a pickup.
What year?
I don't know what year. It was like it's somewhere between 90 to 94 that changed.
That must be the much later ones because when they went from, I remember because I used to change these things all the time. When they went from the regular screw-in cable to the vehicle speed sensor, those sensors would go bad all the time.
Oh, really?
And it was literally the same exact setup as the speedo drive, but instead of having a nipple for the cable, it had the sensor on it. And
Right.
I guess later on they went to that reluctor wheel.
Yeah, that's the ones I've seen has like a reluctor wheel and no place for a cable or the normality. Dallas, have you ever used a 204R? I have. And a 204R is not a bad transmission, but man, before you put it behind anything with anything that resembles power, right? Get on a forum, or well, maybe today it might not even be that most more common. Just Google search Grand National 204R, and they have recipes that was on the Grand National page. Back then, it was like, hey, you got 400 horsepower. This is what needs to be done to the 204R. If you got 500 horsepower, this is what needs to be done. And if you're looking at something like 400 horsepower or less, it's not all that expensive. It's just like a good shift kit and I don't know, a controller for the, well, and if you're using something that has a controller, then it's not even a problem.
It's a good question. Arthur Fiddler. Besides Ford C4, which auto trans have a detachable bell housing separate from the trans? Oh,
I don't think I've ever seen
Studebaker.
You got me. I don't think I've ever seen one other than the C4. Is Powerglide? No, Powerglide is
no. I'm pretty sure the Studebaker trans. They use like a Borg Warner trans, and it had a detachable bell housing.
I do know some of those like 68, 9, 70 Jeeps because I'm a geek on those because they got a Buick 350 in them, which they call the Dauntless 350. But they had like a weird, some weird bell housing adapter setup that was on those things.
FMX has a detachable bell housing. Okay.
Oh, we'll go figure it'd be in the Ford wheelhouse.
The Toyota, right? The A340E auto, yeah.
Oh, I don't know nothing about that one.
Danny Boyd was going to say Borg Warner in the studio. Yep. See, I know stuff besides Mopars, right? See? I've worked on everything. I've worked on everything. I don't want to work on everything anymore, but I've done it.
All right, Joe K asks, what do you think of the direct injection engines and using that spray can intake valve cleaner, since the fuel injectors do not spray at the back of the intake valves?
I don't really have an opinion on them. I don't have an opinion on them. I have no practical hands-on experience with them at all. From what I gather, they have issues. They have issues with carboning, but I don't know anything more about it.
That's the only thing I'm aware of. I do know that they can control. You can have super high compression with the direct injection, and what it does is it puts out like multiple pulses of fuel to quench the combustion. But that's the only thing that I really know. And that the exhaust valves get really carboned up bad, right?
Yeah, I know very little to nothing about them.
But I imagine it would probably work just like any other carbureted engine, where you could probably pour a bunch of transmission fluid down that thing and it would clean all that carbon off. Well, no, it's on the exhaust valves, right?
The transmission fluid is to clean the guides.
I was always told the intake valves, the back of the intake
valves.
Water
on the intake. So if you're trying to clean the valves, you use water because the valve gets so hot that when the water hits it steam blasts the carbon off of it, the crud off of it. But then you have to follow that up with transmission fluid because the transmission fluid lubricates the guides. And any gunk or gum that's on the guides, it'll cut that.
Huh. Well, that makes sense.
Ari, like a cast iron skillet. Yep, exactly.
Well, so I wonder if you could just take a vacuum port, pull a vacuum port on a directed injected engine, put a water bottle on it, squirt 12 ounces down into the thing, and it would flash steam. It would actually work on the exhaust and the intake valves.
Yeah. It works on the combustion chambers, everything. Bear Rose Garage. The early Studebaker automatic was also air-cooled, had a turbine in the back of the Toro. So it was a Toro. So the Power Glide was. Craig Cheeto. Garage 54. I love those guys. Garage 54 just rigged up a diesel injection setup on a gas engine with good results. That's interesting. Hemi Head, thank you for the super chat again. Do they ever drag race or race on concrete?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I suspect not simply due to the coefficient of friction, Button used that rough surface. Yeah, no, that was a big thing. When I at the time that I was in the fuel car deal, that was when all of the tracks were going to concrete starting because
that was a big deal.
Yeah, well, the first one, I tell you what happened with that was Eddie Hill, not Eddie Hill, Billy Meyer built the Texas Motorplex in 1982, 1981, whatever it was. And that was the first all concrete drag strip. And it was a whole deal when it was like, this was very elaborate. It was an engineering exercise because concrete, when you do concrete in giant slabs like that, it wants to crack. So they had this whole steel cable suspension set up in the concrete. And that was where the first, Eddie Hill ran the first 4-second quarter mile there. And then that was a rage. So then all of the tracks started putting in concrete pads. They would do the first 100 feet, 200, whatever.
Jeffers Motorsports Park is all concrete.
It is all concrete? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, concrete is a superior surface to
because of the teeth. It grabs the rubber and holds it in place.
Blaze Lucas, thank you for the super chat. Thanks to you, Tony. I got the balls to buy my first classic car at 18. Congratulations, Blaze. 73 Duster 318. That's a great choice, bro. You're going to enjoy that car. You're going to love that thing. I can never thank you enough. Keep up the great vids. I thank you equally for picking up the torch and running with it, bro. Zero saying post-tension, it's called, like a parking structure. I used to build them. Well, there you go. Franco saying, Tony, we used to street race at McGuire Air Force Base. It was all concrete. That's before my time. Let's see. Bad Tree Productions. What's happening, brother, man?
Raining slant 6 with a chance of cannonballs.
They were pre-stressing the concrete. They do the same thing as slab building for construction. It was the first time it was tried on a drag strip. Blaze Lucas, hell yeah, Tony, it's been a blast. Chicks dig it too. Yeah, please. Let me tell you something, man. You can roll up in a $2 million McLaren, or you could roll up in your Plymouth Duster, and the Duster will get more attention.
Bear Rose says, I remember those early Mopars with the automatic clutch, and it used 30-weight oil in it. Strange transmissions. I don't remember an automatic clutch.
That was the fluid drive.
Oh, this was like 50s?
Yeah, it had a torque converter and a clutch.
Oh, really?
Otto 1303. Tony, were the Chrysler Imperials anything to brag about? They were the best.
Year.
They were the best. They were the best out of all of your. I mean, and I'm not bragging. I'm not saying just because I'm a Mopar guy, right? But when you compare an Imperial to, let's say, a Lincoln or a Cadillac of the time, right? The hands down, man. The Imperial was it.
Hemi Head 68 asked, do super stock drag strip engines typically use harmonic balancers? Yes.
Yes.
Or they would shake themselves apart.
Yes.
Joe Brennan says Chrysler New Yorkers are better.
I'm not knocking New Yorkers at all. They're beautiful cars, but the Imperial was specifically designated as a higher trim level, a higher everything level. The Imperial was a full frame car. Now, a lot of people think the Imperial is a C-body, and in later years it was, but the Imperial, like the true Imperial, like the 61, you know what I mean? Like the Imperial, right? Was up till 67, or 68, was a full frame car. It had 5-on-5 wheels, like wheels didn't interchange with all the other Chrysler products. Imperial, a lot of people don't realize that Imperial was its own division, right? They think of it as a Chrysler Imperial.
Like a Cadillac.
Yeah, Imperial was its own division, separate from Dodge, Plymouth, and Chrysler. So was Valiant.
Well, didn't the B-52 say, "I got a Chrysler, it's as big as a whale"?
Yeah,
That's what I thought.
yeah, Love Shack. Yep. And there's also Planet Claire, where she drove a Plymouth Satellite faster than the speed of light. I remember watching them do that live in 1979 or 1980.
The 52s?
Yeah.
I was surprised at how long they've been around, right? Like, because Love Shack had been around for a while, right? What was the one they did? They did one in the 80s, came back around in the 80s and did another song in the 80s that was big.
Planet Claire is like one of my favorite songs. It's you can't miss Planet Claire. But what happened was they used to so.
Oh, Rock Lobster, that's the one that came out early.
Yeah, what came out about the same time.
Oh, did it?
So in New York, they had the circuit, right? They had all of the big clubs that were Brooklyn and Manhattan, but there was a place on Staten Island called the Paramount Theater. So when they would come to New York to do their tours, they would all start at the Paramount Theater, and that's where they just did their warm-ups. They did like the warm-up shows, right? So that's where so literally, like it was the who's who of every punk, new wave, alternative act that was in circulation at the time, all played the Paramount Theater. And it was like $2 to get in. And like they didn't bother you if you walked in with beer or anything like that. Just yeah, do what you gotta do. So we saw all of these freaking bands back then. It was like it was good stuff. Yeah, Private Idaho is another good one. But Planet Claire is like one of the best songs ever.
All right. Danny Boy says he's seen a bunch of them bands in the late 80s. The ones I can think of that come to mind is like where they were all around the same time frame. Like he put the Clash up there, but it wasn't the Cars one that was or like there was.
Never seen the Cars.
No, weren't they kind of like out there compared to everybody else?
They were yeah.
They had their own sound.
They had their own sound. They were one of the first to like kind of break that mold. Like alternative.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Not punk, but alternative. Cramps for the win.
Cramps.
What was that song? I drove my dragster on LSD. What's that line, man? What's that line? I was a drag racer on LSD. Speaking of which, Franco, you still here?
No, the Screaming Siemens asked me, what do I think about the boat tail ribbies?
Oh, gorgeous.
I like the boat tail ribbies. A lot of people don't.
Either
you love them or hate them, but I like all Rivieras, especially like the early ones, 63, 65. Of course, they're gorgeous, right? But then you got like 66 and 7 look really good still. And then you got the later ones, all the boat tails, they were gorgeous.
Franco, any Jimmy Messenger stories? My favorite Buick. Oh, Austin's Arnold. My favorite Buick and my mom's too. Oh, they're just gorgeous.
And you know what's funny is like I was watching an old episode of it wasn't Top Gear, but it was those same guys that do Top Gear, but they have like a later show that was on Amazon.
Okay.
I can't remember what it was called, the Grand Tour maybe. And he was like, look what the Americans went from making. And then he showed a picture of a boat tail Riviera. That's one of his favorite cars, an American car, right? Is a boat tail Riviera. And then they showed like a Riviera from like 2000, right? Like,
Franco doesn't know Jimmy Messenger. Jimmy Messenger drove a car called the Brewmaster out of B&L Auto in the Bronx. It was okay. So I ended up with this car. So B&L Auto was a dealer for Woody Gilmore. So when Gilmore was mass producing the Flexi Flyers, B&L took like 7 of them and sold them all locally. And one of them ended up as a top fuel car called the Brewmaster. So this guy Jimmy Messenger was the driver, And the legend had it was that he was a notorious acid head. So he ran this car constantly. It was like a regular New York National and Englishtown and ACO, all those. He ran that circuit, the whole East Coast circuit. So I ended up with this car, right? And I had heard all the stories about him. And I remember the first time I ran that car in Englishtown at night, okay? And I'm like, this guy drove this car on air because you're just sitting in there, right? And there's the lights and everything, and the motor's doing its thing, right? And I'm sitting in this car, and I'm like, this guy drove this car on acid? What the hell was he? What level was he attempting to achieve? Because it's like if you guys never drove a front engine car, man,
yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a trip. Okay, if you want to know what it's like to like seriously drive a front engine dragster, okay? So yeah, but that always stuck with me. It's like because I had that moment. I did the burnout, and I'm getting ready to stage the car, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I'm pulling the brake. I'm like, this guy drove this thing on acid. Oh my god!
So, and before we get into this, Dust Devil Garage asked if I was going to be in Sykeston this weekend. Yes, I'm going to be in Sykeston this weekend. And somebody else said 70 to 72 Scholars was the only Buicks that looked good. Buddy, you have got to be somebody that's chasing another dude, because a 65 like Riviera or an Electra or a LeSabre, those ones with the long taillight bars all the way across, those were freaking gorgeous, man. And then you got Colin Johnson. Thanks for the super chat.
Yes, thank you, Colin. Hey Tony, just picked up a low mileage 30 over small block 400 block. I have a stock 350 crank and 5.7 rods on hand. Don't want to spend $2,000 on a big dollar rotating assembly. Should I build a mild 400 horsepower 377 or pony up?
I'd build that for 377, no problem.
Yeah, so would I. Yeah, that's
a great
that's
motor.
An awesome combination. That was a very popular thing.
I'll tell you what, if you want to do super cheap with that combo, you can find a set of Vortec heads with that big bore. It's going to unshroud all those valves. Or you can even find a set of Vortex and put 202 160 valves in it. We still have plenty of room, right?
Oh, Jesus, thing is flying. Barrow's Garage. Didn't Brian Johnson, AC/DC, state in his autobiography that shook me all night long is actually about his 55 Chevy Black Widow clone? Oh, God. I didn't know he had one of those. Those are the coolest freaking cars.
I know. And the sad part is like the rumor is they never really existed. But somebody did a damn good job of convincing the world that they did, right? Because I've read, I don't know how many countless stories on those things about how they were built specifically for NASCAR, right? And then nobody can ever produce one. Have you seen one that was a legit piece? I've seen clones.
I wouldn't know. I mean, I know they built them.
Well, it was all a rumor thing, right? Like there was never any numbers released. There was never any confirmation that they were there because they were built specifically for NASCAR, right? But my old man used to tell me stories like, what did they call them? They'd have where you had the traveling salesman. They didn't even come with the back seat of them, right?
Well, Frank was saying Ralph and Colonel and Ralph there had a Black Widow.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, the rumor went that those cars were ordered without a back seat, with radio delete, with like every delete package you could completely get on a car with a 283 fuel motor,
yeah,
and a 4-speed. So I imagine you could. I don't see why you couldn't, because any run-of-the-mill dude could get an inline 6, 3 on the tree with no back seat.
Harry, No Name Nationals Kool-Aid acid test tune.
And we don't even tell you that it's happening. That's what you just all of a sudden start tripping your ass off up in the stands.
That would be funny, man. Acid eliminator. just people tripping balls and making runs in slow cars.
That would not be funny. I'm sure we would end up with some crazy people out there. They would have no idea. Did I ever tell you that on my very first ship that somebody did that? We had this stuff that they would sell, or not sell, but it was to drink on the ship, and you got it at lunchtime. It's called bug juice, right? That's what we called it. It was like a cheap version of Kool-Aid, and somebody put like a whole entire blotter in that freaking bug juice, So all these dudes came through at lunch and freaking drink down their bug juice, and about 30 minutes later, everybody's like, "What in the fuck is going on?" Like, start losing their mind. That dude pulls hair out of his head, his whole hair, a head of hair.
Need metal saying, I raced a quarter mile flat track after 8 milligrams of Xanax. The bike felt like it had rubber handlebars. Dude, I accidentally took that shit once and like never again. Never again. Let's see. Ari, sometimes I feel like my wheels ain't touching the ground. Fred Eaglesmith. Hagrid Hot Rods. Drugs are bad, okay? I'm not condoning drugs.
No, please don't do that. I'm telling you, there was a lot of freaking creepy and freaked out sailors that day because everybody got freaking acid at lunchtime. And they were like, they were checking all the food, like, what the hell is going on?
Wait, you gotta understand something though. There's major differences between things like acid or shrooms or anything like that, and like heroin. You know what I mean? It's like or pills and shit like that. No, there's major differences. It's apples and oranges. It's not the same thing. Not that we're condoning drug use, but we've all done drugs at some time or another, and just some of them are pretty fun, and some of them are like, we'll stay away from that stuff. So, this is not pharmaceutical advice. I'm not a pharmacist. Squeeze ye the third eye, my friends. Mexican Spec. Where is Kathy to tell us Tony is not a doctor? She's lurking. I'll get it when I go
home. Joe Brennan says no financial advice allowed, but definitely drugs. Okay. Oh, let's change the topic before you get demonetized, right? Oh no, we're gonna lose the shop.
Danny Boyd, I've never drove on bias plies other than maybe 25 miles an hour in a truck. Really? Tony is not a role model. I am not a role model. I make no pretense about it. I am not a role model.
The Nuke milk had to be your favorite. Otto 1303. I could not drink that milk. I could not, no matter what, I could not drink that milk. The Ultra, get this. You're a car guy. You build stuff. You make gaskets. You use ultra high temperature sealant, right? You join the Navy. The milk is called ultra high temperature milk. Would you drink it?
No.
I could not drink it. I could not bring myself to drink that crap.
Thumper, what do you think about pulling the inner springs and breaking in a hydraulic cam? Depends on the springs. If it's just a simple factory style spring with an inner, no man, don't worry about it.
That's if you're talking anyway.
Yeah, if you're talking about a battleship spring, like a real triple with a lot, yeah, pull the middles out. But it just depends on the spring. Actually, you know what? You're best off asking the manufacturer. Ask the cam grinder, they're the ones who will tell you whether or not it should be done.
Edward Gomez, the ultra high temperature just kills bacteria. No, you'd have to taste this milk. It tasted like spoiled, like immediately. It was not good. Tony's accurate financial and medicinal advice services. E85 on carburetors. What's your thoughts on E85 on carburetors?
I am not, I have no experience with it. I'm not inclined to work with it. I have nothing against it. But I've never used it. I'm not inclined to use it. I just, when it comes to any type of like driver type of thing, right? Comes to any type of driver type of thing, pump gas. If you can't get it at any gas station, at any time, any place, I don't want to deal with it. And E85 is not something that you have anytime, any place.
The funniest thing, my buddy came by my house one time in Jacksonville, and I had inherited this 65 Pontiac GTO. It was full on race car. It had a methanol injection on it, the whole 9 yards, right? But it wasn't like injector stacks like you're thinking. It was a Ron's racing toilet. And so I took it off and put a Holly on there and put VP 110 in it, right? Well, I had like 40 gallons of race methanol.
Okay.
And my buddy came over to my house and I'm like trying to figure out what I'm going to do with this stuff. And he's like, oh, dude, I got a flex fuel vehicle. Why don't we just dump it in that thing and I'll drive back home? Because he was living in the Panhandle of Florida near Pensacola. And I was driving home. And I'm like, oh, well, that sounds like a great idea. That way he gets some use out of it instead of just light it on fire, right? So we dump in his vehicle. He drives like, I don't know, 100 miles maybe. That whole tank was completely drained. It drank every bit of it within like 100 miles.
Because he was running on the floor.
I just thought it was funny. Like the flex fuel vehicle, I wonder if it could handle just straight methanol because that's what we poured in there. We drove it around he had a little minivan. It was a flex fuel thing. We just ran it till it was just like empty and dumped 40 gallons in there or whatever it was. 20 gallons of methanol, but it still, I mean, it chewed it up fast.
Let's see. Tony, Tony, why are you always talking about valve factory springs with inners? What cars would these be? I'm not calling dampers springs. Are you? No more part of. I call damper springs. A damper is a spring. It's still a spring. So a single spring is just the outer. A double spring is the outer with a damper. A triple spring or a battleship style spring is a wire, a damper, and then a third spring on the inside. So yes, those are double springs.
Yeah, the Screaming Seaman says E85 is great for making power, but you lose 30 to 40% gas mileage. I don't doubt it because the energy that's contained within methanol, you have to put 30 to 40% more in just to get the same amount of energy.
2.2 times the amount.
Really?
The ratio is gasoline to alcohol is 2.2 times the volume of alcohol to do the same job. This is like let's say you set up an injection.
So that's 50%.
2.2 times.
Right.
Right. And then to go from alcohol to nitro, you double it. Okay. So let's just say you're running a mechanical injection setup, and you've got, just to round numbers off, you got a 10,000 jet for gasoline. Now you want to run alcohol, you go to a 22. Now you want to run nitro, you go to a 44.
Oh, all right. Huh. And Thumper says ethanol is not methanol. No, it's not. One is wood alcohol, the other one is grain alcohol.
Yeah, Thumper, I'm gonna contact you, man. I want to do something with you about alcohol.
Oh, he said methanol is 2 times. E85 is not that.
No, I know that.
Yeah, Tony wants to pick your brain on
yeah, Thumper.
Ethanol or phenol fuels, right?
Yeah, I not right now, not right now, but because I have a bunch of stuff I gotta get through. My head is full. Okay, but I would love to get together with you, Thumper, and do something on just alcohol in general and brewing it yourself. All of the stuff that you do, I think especially now, I think that's a valuable thing to talk about.
Let's not forget Beehive Springs. Did I tell you on my super stock motor I put Beehive Springs on it?
Yeah, you showed me.
Did I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tom Ashton.
Dallas has my email. What? I don't
Alki,
have everybody's email.
Alki is 7-1. Where do you get that from?
Maybe stoichiometric. Is stoichiometric 7-1?
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. Sorry. I thought we were talking about ratio. Let's see.
Terry CH says, cool. I used to have a fetish for alcohol fuel vehicles. I have no experience. Ooh, man, you want to talk about drinking some fuel?
The Kickendall's in the house. What's happening, brother, man?
You know, it changed now. It's the Kickendall's auto and random repairs.
He's growing. He's becoming a thing. I would go over there and check out his channel.
Exactly. Haggard Hot Rod says, time to popcorn set in some fuel. I think it's about time too. I wouldn't mind going straight methanol or ethanol if I could figure out how to make enough and carry enough.
Levi's Backyard Performance for you, man.
Dallas, you should add Thornhill drag strip, the supposed longest running drag strip in the U.S., about 1 hour away from me. but to run with the AHR, totally worth it. Well, let me look him up, bro.
He's going to look that up, and I'll answer more questions. Talking about the dude, was homebrew fuel ever a part of hot rod culture? Where do you think stuff like nitromethane came from? It was all about mixing and matching different additives and so on and so forth. You know, guys working out of their garages and their backyards. Well, actually, well, nitro comes from the Germans. They were using that in formula.
I heard different. I heard it came from guys that were working in the tether car industry, being drafted into the military, and then they were talking to the hot rodders from Southern California, telling them that they should add nitromethane to their hot rod if they want to make it go faster, because that's how they make power out of those tether cars.
But the Germans were using it in the Formula One or whatever series, whatever. I'm not familiar with the actual series and stuff, but they were using it in their state-sponsored cars in the 1930s.
Huh.
Eddie, oh hey, what's going on, Eddie? Eddie Gomez, an old friend of mine. Nitro was a rocket fuel. No, nitromethane was never a rocket fuel.
It's a floor cleaner, I think.
Nitromethane is the opposite of a rocket fuel. Like it burns so slowly that like you couldn't. It's utterly unusable for anything but. It's a solvent. It's an intermediary in making pharmaceuticals. It's used in a lot of different applications. But the only place that it actually has any type of like combustible use is in a race car. And the reason it makes so much power is what would make it so terrible a rocket fuel. It burns really slow. So it extends the duration of burn, and that's why it works.
Oh, dude.
Hydrazine is a different story.
That was a rocket fuel.
Yeah.
This track, Thornhill drag strip, is under a noise ordinance and can only operate 6 hours a week.
I hate that.
Dude, you want to talk about tying somebody's hands behind their back.
Eddie is saying it's a waste product of nitroglycerin. No, absolutely not. Nitromethane is made from ammonia.
Wasn't it made for like a floor stripper for like cleaning floors?
It was
taking wax off floors.
It's been used as so many different things in industry, right? But it's to make nitromethane, you heat ammonia to 400 degrees Celsius, and it's done in a stainless vat, okay? And what condenses is caught, and that's nitromethane. And it doesn't become a shock sensitive. It can become a shock sensitive explosive when it's mixed with any sort of amine. So that's where the hydrazine nitromethane mix becomes so volatile.
Well, it's funny when who did I interview? Jim. The thing was, it might have been the dude from Golden Commandos, Jim Thornton.
Yeah.
Where he was talking about the hydrazine being in the glove box of the car, and that they had brought for just the event, where you put just a little bit in the freaking tank, right?
I played with it. I know. Yeah.
And then he said we left a little vial of it in the car in the glove box, and the sucker blew up, and the FBI was everywhere.
Okay, I had one of those vials.
Oh, really?
Okay. Those vials came from there was a guy named, I think it was Fast Eddie Sharpman.
Oh yeah, Fast Eddie.
Okay.
Strikes again.
He somehow or another procured a crate of these vials, these little vials,
right,
of hydrazine. And it was laboratory grade hydrazine, right?
So the real explosive stuff.
So I wanted to see if this stuff actually works, and it does actually work. Too good. So what happens when you mix, here's the essential thing, right? Nitromethane is an extremely long duration burning fuel, okay? But it's not volatile in the least, right? It takes a lot to light nitromethane. It has to be compressed, and it needs a good strong duration spark, okay? Right. Hydrazine added to nitromethane is an exciter, and what it does is it makes this slow burning fuel volatile. So you end up with you have the best of both worlds. you have an extremely volatile, easy to light mixture. It's actually a compression ignition.
So
like a diesel.
it's like splits the difference.
Yes, but you get this super long duration of burn. So you get this extremely long duration explosion. It's brutal.
Oh no,
brutal.
I can only imagine, because it's like, imagine all the things that would be very bad long duration, right? Like let's say you get struck by lightning. Now it's long duration lightning, right? How good would that be? That wouldn't be good. That would suck. But I can only see. Well, remember I told you that he told me that when Forrest Pitcock started the car, the very first time they had added hydrogen to the fuel, he started it up. You're supposed to have it running and dump the fuel in, right?
Mm-hmm.
He started it, hit the key, and it went blink, blink. And he said, "Oh, what's that?" And the whole entire crank assembly was laying on the ground.
The one time we tried it was during a test session, right? We were playing around all different types of things, and I procured this vial. I found out where it had come from. Actually, I found out where it had come from. You know, its lineage and all of that. Was given basic directions on how to use it, and I did what I was told that people had done with it back in the day, right? So, car did the burnout, backed up, and we popped the body panel off, and I took eyedropper. Okay, it was just like a regular eyedropper,
Right.
and
Added
gave it a squirt,
right,
and then shook it.
Okay. Well, it was running, right?
Well, it was running.
Yeah.
Okay, shook it, and we put the body panel back on the car, and as the car was starting to roll forward, like to start the staging process, it started to get crazy, right? Like it took like maybe 20 or 30 seconds, okay? But you could tell it catalyzed all of the fuel, right?
Right.
You know, and it got nutty. I mean, it got nutty, and I was like, oh, we've gone too far. But it was a rear engine car, and the driver didn't really know what was going on. It was like, let's send it and see what happens. And it blew the tires off. He pedaled it once or twice. I don't really remember it. The flames were crazy. When we brought it back, tore it down, it crushed every ring land in the motor. It bent like 2 or 3 rods. It crushed. Not only did it pound the rod bearings, but it pounded the main bearings as well.
Really?
Yeah, it was like nuts. I was like, okay, I get it. You know what I mean? So here's the scary thing about this, right? So I had this vial, okay, of the hydrazine, and after I quit with the cars and everything else, there was one time we played with it, right? It was my one experience with it. And I said, okay, that's pretty interesting, but I still had this vial, and it was about half full, okay. So I took it and I left it in my garage, right, on a shelf in the back. This is when I lived in New York. So as we were cleaning up to move to Tennessee, it had been sitting there for a few years. And I was looking around for anything, you know, you go like the last minute trip through the garage to say, well, you know, let me make sure I didn't forget this, forget that. We're moving out of the house.
Right.
I couldn't find it.
Oh, really?
I couldn't find it.
So it's still there?
Somewhere.
I always thought you were going to say something like I dumped it in the carry van, right?
No. I have no idea what happened to that vial.
Man, that's rough.
Neat metal.
Like, you literally have rocket fuel catalyst sitting somewhere in a garage up in New York.
Neat metal, thank you for the super chat. I had a Jawa Speedway bike on methanol, not that powerful, just light with a flat torque curve. And then it had to sound just awesome. I love thumpers, bro. I love thumpers. Franco asked the Greek about hydrazine. He blew the quarter panel off of Chrysler's. Then I talked with him at length about hydrazine.
Well, what's cool?
He was the one that told me to shake the car.
What was cool is like all these older guys, they're like talk willingly about this stuff. But at the time it was happening, it was like freaking federal prison time stuff, right? I mean, it was bad stuff. But apparently they were getting their stuff directly from NASA.
Now, the rumor has it that all of the hydrazine that was in use in that day came from this one crate that was procured by Eddie Sharpman. That's what I was told. I don't know if it's true or not.
Huh. Well, that makes sense that he got a whole crate somewhere. Well, and you know what? What was that? I can't remember what they used to call it. You remember in New York where they would boost like a big box truck, right? And they'd sell everything out the back of the box truck. I can't remember what they used to call it, like the corner store. It's like, I don't know. So they had some weird New York style name for it, right? But I'm sure that's how it ended up somewhere in somebody's hands, right? Well, it was something like that where they just took a truck and you found this and you're like, what the hell is this, right? Well, let me try to sell it for $500. Well, then somebody knew what it was.
Right. I don't know how it. I have no idea what hands it went through.
Oh, I know.
Like that.
It's called hijack. No, they used to have some kind of cutesy name for it, like the corner store or something like that. It was some ridiculous name. It's where they would sell the cigarettes out of the back of the trucks after they boosted the trucks full of cigarettes or beer.
I know nothing about that.
Oh, that didn't happen?
No, that never happened. It only happens in the movies. My brother, Swamp Rat. What's going on, brother man?
Yes, Joe Pesci style. Speaking of that, Ray Liotta died last week.
James, that's my brother, Normal James. He was there when we experimented with some nitro stuff in the driveway back in New York.
Truckload sale. Mercury. We dumped mercury in our mini bikes? I don't know what that would do. It doesn't burn. Wouldn't it be mercury vapors and then you would get heavy metals and...
I have no idea. Mercury is not flammable.
I know, but I think it would vaporize because it's a liquid at almost any state, right?
Yeah, but you need like a volcano heat.
I don't know what, but I just know that if it vaporized and became some kind of vapor, if you breathe that in, you would freaking have heavy metal poisoning like ASAP.
Big Belly Racing, Dallas, is there any future plans for the AHRA to hold some grudge race events?
We actually already have some. I have one this year called the Shootout at Sundown up in Iowa. And it's virtually just a grudge style best of three. It's happening August 26th in Humboldt, Iowa. Yes, they used to use mercury vapor to make mirrors.
Tom Ashton, head bolts versus studs, which is better? Studs are always better, but do you need it? That's the thing, right? In 90% of the cases, you're building just a 400, 500, 600 horsepower conventional V8, any of them, the Ford, Chrysler, General Motors, doesn't make any difference. At that level, no. The extra clamping force, you're not going to see the difference. It's not going to make a difference. It only makes a difference when you get into super high combustion pressures, and then the studs make a difference. So they're better, but you'll never see that difference on a typical build.
See, Billy Bob Holcomb says the same thing that I said. Mercury in the fuel would poison all who breathe the fumes. It would have to be brutal.
Don, Robert De Niro is woke. Robert De Niro's a putz.
Well, he's always been woke too, right? He always plays a tough guy on TV, but he's like the opposite in real life.
James is saying, hey, Dan Boyd called you Anthony. I haven't heard that in a long time. Right? Who calls me Anthony? You call me Anthony. Who else?
Did you have a neat nickname like Anthony the Retard? Or you didn't have anything like that?
No, I had, when I was a kid, I was called Oil Pit for a while.
Oil Pit?
Oil Pit. That was like just a derogatory name from when I was like 16 to 17 years old, because I was always covered with,
Yeah. What is that noise? You hear that?
That's the business. They do like the bounce houses and shit, or it could be the picking up the
The dumpster. I was gonna say it sounds like a dumpster being shaken around.
Dirty Tony. Yeah, I was always dirty, man. Always dirty. Still am. I still am. I still am.
All right, so South Jersey Jim says used to put crushed gold bearing black sand and crushed ore in a baked potato with mercury. The mercury supposedly attracted the gold. It vaporizes and leaves a smidgen of gold behind. Huh. Oh, well, yeah, I know what you're talking about. You're actually just like they used to when they're mining from gold. That's how they would get gold out of ore. They would get because it would normally gold travels in quartz veins, right?
Yeah.
So it extracted gold from the quartz. The mercury would cause it to.
Okay, I remember something about I have no idea what the process is, but I remember reading about that. Archer Fiedler, fulminated of mercury is an explosive like nitroglycerin. Mr. Roberts' movie, guys. Yeah, but that's not mercury itself. It's mercury that's been altered in significant ways. I don't know. I'm not a chemist.
Yes, don't eat the potato.
Don't eat the potato.
No.
It's one potato you definitely don't want to. Butter won't fix that.
It'll be your last meal potato for sure.
Right. Bacon and cheddar won't fix that. Don't go there. Doug Narden, so where can I find a Holly Sampler series carburetor? I heard it's good for reducing carbon. Flo, please, I can't even go there.
What does Tony Dallas think about the diesel engine coal burning drag racers? I think it's cool. I mean, whatever you want to make you go fast. I think it's kind of neat because diesel fuel was never intended for drag racing purposes. It was intended for. It's actually just a leftover substance made from gasoline, right? When you make gasoline, diesel's the leftover product.
Yeah.
And
no. It's one step shy of the refining process for gasoline.
Is it?
I believe so. Somebody will know.
Well, I know that gasoline was a byproduct of making kerosene. Right?
It's a further refinement of kerosene, and then diesel and kerosene are essentially the same thing.
Right. It's actually a little bit lesser than kerosene.
Okay.
But I think that fuel actually was intended to do just work, right? Like heavy loads of work, because you can. I mean, think about it. A diesel engine, what are they good for? But if you put it in a drag racing application, you just load the crap out of it. That's what they do. Like who's got 273 gears in their drag car? Those diesel guys do. And bunch of turbos. And I mean, that's what's funny is if you've ever seen it used in a marine application, you'll have like quad turbos on a V12 diesel. And then it'll be fed. It won't even have an intercooler. It'll be fed into like 2 freaking GMC blowers on top, right? And then they're like, God, talk about cylinder pressure. And they say, well, wouldn't it detonate? Well, no, that's how the thing runs, right? So,
do you remember the dragster called the Golden Gator?
No, that one does not strike a bell with me.
It was the guy. I can't remember his name. He worked for one of the cam manufacturers. It might have been Crane or Crower. I don't remember exactly. But he had an alcohol dragster that had a 671 fed with 2 turbochargers.
Oh, all right. Yeah, you could probably do it on methanol. I don't see why you couldn't. I always thought that was a kind of a neat concept. What do they call that? It's not double charging. It's force fit or something like that. I can't remember what they used to call them.
Chase Night. That's it. Thank you, Franco. Joe Brennan, I think jets run on kerosene. Yes, they do. Chase Night worked for Crane. See, right? Okay, it's all stuck in there someplace.
It's just standing right next to whatever you just threw out earlier when you said it was back there.
Yeah, the Huggy Bear.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The Screaming Seaman says he's from the part of Utah where people have started mating with potatoes. I've
Don't do it with that mercury potato, though. I promise.
No, don't meet with the mercury potato. We should do that. That should be a T-shirt. Don't meet with the mercury potato. People would be like, what?
Yeah. Catch alive. Chase was Crane's head tech guy. It wasn't Crane. They were out of Florida, right? Weren't they out of Florida?
Well, it's called the Golden Gator.
Oh, yeah. Duh. I knew it had been out of Florida. Okay.
Two hacks. What's happened to two hacks? What did I end up doing with the Sandy Cup? It's just sitting in there. I'll use it for parts or something.
We should blow it out. Actually, just take that base plate and put it on another carburetor. See if the modifications really work.
I could do that. I could do that.
After you get all of the, here's something that people don't know about sandblasting aluminum, right? The blasting material actually embeds itself in the aluminum because it's so soft. And then you got to spend hours and hours and hours scrubbing it. Otherwise, you'll end up with aluminum in like your fuel filters or your oil filter or wipe bearings or, oh man, it does a number on stuff.
UTG, you guys get a lot of moonshiners up in TN. They're around, but like they're like off in like the way rural areas, and it's a novelty. It's not that
if you go to Eastern Tennessee, that stuff's still going on today.
Yeah.
Right. But
it's a novelty.
Here where we're at, like Middle Tennessee, is kind of like this is where to tell you the truth. This is where a lot of the legal breweries or distilleries were still set up during the Prohibition. Was like here in Kentucky, right? And if you go up I-24 or even south of Nashville down I-24, you're going to run into probably 2, 3, 4 distilleries going north or south from Nashville.
Hemi Head, Roanoke, Virginia is the moonshine capital.
There you go.
Somebody had told me, this is 25 years ago, that there was a scrapyard in Roanoke, Virginia that still had like 3 or 4 steam locomotives in there. And I was coming from New York, moving down to Tennessee. So this is 20 years ago now. And I had a Ford van, and it was loaded with motorcycles and tools and shit like that. And I'm coming on my way down, and I had a tire start to get weird on me, right? So I pulled off into Roanoke, right? This off of 81. I pulled off into Roanoke, and I'm looking around for something that's open that I can figure out what to do, change the tire or whatever. It's like the middle of the night. And as I'm driving around looking for a place to do this, boom, 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 I see a scrapyard. I figure out what the name of it was, but there were railroad tracks all over the place. I said, oh, I got to check this out. So like I said, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay. It's just like, it's the middle of the friggin' night. And I'm like, oh, I remember the guy telling me about steam locomotives in this Roanoke scrapyard. So I parked the van and I start walking around through the scrapyard, and it's just a giant, enormous.
I'm surprised there wasn't dogs everywhere. And
no, it was like wide open. There were no fences around or anything like that.
Huh.
But there was it was just like the section where all these different railroads came together. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So like as I'm walking around, there's a freight train going that way.
Oh, it's like a rail yard.
It's like a rail yard, and there's scrap is all to the side. And I'm walking around like, nah, there's nothing here. And I turn around, right? And I see like I'm looking at like the coupler, right? And I'm like, and I look up, and it's this steam locomotive sitting there, like just coming out of it. It was just amazing. It was just, and there were like 3 of them there. There were 3 of them there.
I thought you were gonna say they were making booze out of that steam locomotive. That it was a giant still.
He said he talked about Roanoke, Virginia, and that always stuck in my mind.
You know that like the craziest thing. I was stationed in Hawaii in like 2005, 6, 7, and 8, and I used to go to the junkyard there, and for some reason there, like people did the junkyard. I don't know why, but what's funny is you can't get rid of these cars. Once you get on the island, they'll get like, and here's what's weird. They'll get like 30, 40,000 miles on them, and they're junk, right? And you're like, how is something to get 30, 40,000 miles on them when they normally go for like 200,000? Because they're in Hawaii, they don't drive down the road. They literally just sit in traffic and bumper to bumper all day, every day, right? 30, 40,000 miles is all they'll rack up. And they're in the junkyard. Well, I just so happened I go to this junkyard on the west side near Waianae. And that's actually where I found the Oh dang it! What was that funny car that flipped? It's out of Hawaii. It wrecked, and they kind of put it back together.
The Hawaiian.
No.
Roland's first funny car.
No. This was a altered wheelbase Dodge.
The Goldfinger Dodge.
The Goldfinger car.
Yep.
That's where I found the Goldfinger, was in this junkyard.
Okay.
But I literally was walking down through this junkyard, and there's a pile of cars, right? Like Ford Explorers and minivans and stuff all stacked up. And I walked around and right into the middle of a freaking illegal cockfight, right? And there was all these dudes standing around, and they all stopped and looked at me. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm the only white guy on the western side of Hawaii right now. And I looked right at him and like, say something smart, right? And I'm like, I got 20 on the green one. Right? I was going to get murdered putting one in the trunks of those cars, right? But yeah, it was a good time.
Raul Cruz, those steam locomotives saved in museums now. The ones that were in Roanoke, no fooling. That's good. They saved those. Nice. Screaming Seaman, UT, the only big boy left is on display in Cheyenne, Wyoming. No, it's not. There's one. I know there's one for sure in Steamtown.
Wasn't there one just recently that was still riding the rails?
Yeah. There's one out there running right now. The Union Pacific did a whole restoration on it. They use it for. They actually use it for regular service.
I lost my money and I did not care because I got to walk away with my life. So Danny Boyd's like, "Did you win the $20, Dallas?" No, I was just happy to like not die because I literally thought I was going to get stabbed. Man, you got to see what it's like. If you're not watching the Hawaiian movies, right? Think the complete opposite of like Elvis's Blue Hawaii. It's not like that at all. It's like, I don't know what you would call it. It would be like anywhere else, but you're in Hawaii, and you get in a bad part of town and you end up dead, especially as white folks.
One for the road. I live 5 miles from Steamtown. I can confirm we have one here. That is such a great place. If you guys, if you're a gearhead, okay, you don't have to be into railroads. You know what I mean? It's not a prerequisite.
What? We need to close. We need to revisit that. Did you do any research on the steam?
No,
engine?
I have not. My head is full of. Like today, I spent the whole day running around doing stuff with Slaghammer. No, my head is not there right now. But what he just said, he lives 5 miles from Steamtown. You do not have to be a railroad guy. You don't have to be into trains or anything like that. If you're ever anywhere near Scranton, Pennsylvania, okay, Steamtown is just the most amazing place. I actually hung out there one day. I spent the whole day and helped them ring. I was like the gopher, right? I say, but I helped them ring like it was. No, I was like the gopher, and like, here, lift this, push that, right? Re-ring a locomotive cylinder. I'm telling you, it is absolutely the greatest place you'd ever want. It's just amazing, just amazing. It's a national park, and they have a big boy there. Actually, as soon as you pull into a place, there's the big boy.
Oh man, why can I not select that? Whoever just sent me this text, I'm gonna look it up right now. I don't know who sent me this text. Because all I had was your phone number.
South Jersey Jim, yes, Steamtown in Scranton is awesome. Huge turntable too. Yeah. There's and the other place is
Here you go. Somebody sent me this link during this live. I don't even know who it was. Rising from the Rust.
I don't know what's it about.
The Roanoke Times. Apparently, and you can't look at it unless you got a subscription to the Roanoke Times.
Oh.
But it was. Oh, okay. I know who this. This is Chris Cox. Okay.
There's another place. Pennsylvania is just loaded with cool railroad shit.
They were like the hub. That's where all the neat stuff was. You ever see that movie or the TV show, The Men Who Built America? They talk about all those. They had talk about all those railways through there, and all of them went through Pennsylvania.
Well, Pennsylvania, you got Steamtown up in Scranton, and about 2 hours south and east of that is in Lancaster County. They have a place called there was two places across the street from each other. You got the Strasburg Railroad, and then across the street from that, you got the Railroad Museum of Pennsylvania. And John Wilburn and I spent the day bouncing around that place this last summer. And that's another place. If you don't have to be into railroads or trains at all, but if you're a gearhead, right? If you like machinery, you love machinery. These places are unparalleled. I mean, it's like you're just like a kid in a candy store.
Well, I like the connecting rod that's like as big as a tank, right?
Yeah.
That is so freaking cool. And then you learn that it moves at like one RPM, right? Something super slow.
No, they actually move pretty. They
well, when they get up and move, yeah. When they're finally at like top speed, they're probably.
But they make the most power at 1 RPM.
1 RPM. Right. But they also weigh like a zillion pounds. I don't know how they just didn't smoke the steel wheel right off of them.
The Screaming Seaman, Tony, the 14014 is completely restored in 2019. I helped restore it. Oh, yeah, that's right. We talked about that.
Yeah, he works for Union Pacific.
Yeah, cool. You're a lucky guy, man. You're a lucky guy. I've
yeah, but he's not that lucky because he's got to go work on the new junk too that nobody cares about. Like it's the scrappable train, right? That
when you think of, have you ever actually been in the presence of one of those things?
A steam, yeah.
No, I was big boy.
Yeah, with a steam locomotive, right?
No, big boy.
Oh, I don't know what a big boy is. I don't know what the difference is. It's a huge ones.
It's 2 put together.
Oh, all right. No, I have never seen one.
See the shop?
Yeah.
Okay. You see the height of the shop?
Yeah.
See the length of the shop?
Sure.
A big boy would fit in that. Like
that's about it.
End to end. Just the locomotive.
Oh yeah, we talked about this last week. Yeah. And you couldn't have the attending car behind it, right?
Right. No, tender wouldn't fit. A Wheelie King PA was the hub of it all because of the iron ore.
Oh, well, that makes sense then. Yeah, because all the steel was coming to Pennsylvania. Duh. Oh my God! Did you see that? He says the 4014 weighs 1.2 million pounds.
Yeah.
Jeez, dude! Holy cow! That's as much as a ship.
Yes, they're articulated. Which
we're at 2 hours.
Are we really? Oh my God, we're over 2 hours. See, sometimes it just goes. Do you notice the 4014 had diesel behind it to help pull along loads of passenger cars? It's diesel. Engineer was a woman.
Oh, they do that because it was attached to the steam engine?
I cannot see how a big boy is going to have a problem pulling anything. I mean, like you're talking, these things were designed to pull like miles long loaded coal trains, like over steep grades.
Well, like, passengers too, big time passengers.
No, the big boys weren't.
No,
they were
just cargo.
They were intended because they would have to link up. They would often have to link up 2-3 steam locomotives to pull these long fucking trains, okay, up these hills. So they were just like, well, let's just put a couple of them together. You know what I'm saying?
Jeez. Oh, and that's why they call them big boys.
Yeah. So I there's no way I could see a diesel. It would probably take 5 diesels to match.
There you go. Roscoe P. Coltrane. The diesels provide electricity and dynamic braking. Now I could see that, where they're just along for the ride, providing electricity.
Okay, I could see that.
It's more or less like a generator car.
Franco, Tony, is a small locomotive buried under the Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn. There's actually, I know the one you're talking about, and there's 2 of them that are similar to that underwater off the Jersey Shore.
Hudson River?
No, off the Jersey Shore, off of.
In the Atlantic Ocean.
In the Atlantic Ocean. There's someplace between Cape May and oh God. But there's 2 of those, like they're odd locomotives. So like it's like a 2-1-0 wheel arrangement. It's an odd, like super early stuff, like 1830s. And there's 2 of them next to each other underwater in the Atlantic, right off the Jersey Shore.
There's quite a few of them in the ocean, actually. Quite a few of them, because they were only made in America, right? Like I'm pretty sure.
No, they're made everywhere.
No, all the ones we hear.
Oh no, the ones we had here were all built here.
Yeah, so I thought.
Yeah.
So they would ship them from one place to the next because where they were going, they were building the tracks, right? So you had to get them there somehow. So generally it was barge, and if they hit horrible weather, next thing you know, that train the engine would end up underwater. And at that time, you got nothing that could take it out, so it's there forever.
Raul is saying there's a steam locomotive under the highway in Garysburg, North Carolina. There's one in a tunnel under Richmond, Virginia.
Oh, there is one that pops up on pictures every now and then. It's still got the cars and everything behind it in a tunnel. It's just stored there in the tunnel, right? And
No,
shut down.
No, the tunnel collapsed while the train was in there.
Oh, okay.
And they just left it because it was like a burial thing, right?
Tyler.
So you bought a Buell Blaster because Tyler, listen, right? Listen to me, Tyler. On my way here tonight, right? I was riding the Blast, okay? So on my way here tonight, I took there's a road behind me over here called Shore Road, okay? And it's just perfect, okay? So if you, it's like some sections of it are like a miniature Tail of a Dragon type of thing. And I was riding my Blast down through there, and it's got a Vance and Hines pipe on it. It sounds just awesome, right? And I was like working that bike through those turns and everything, and I said to myself, this is just the perfect little motorcycle. It is just absolutely like they named it right. It's a blast. I hope you have a lot of fun with that, bro. Listen to me. I don't care what it costs. Find a Vance and Hines pipe for that thing and inject the carburetor accordingly and lose that whole crazy airbox that they got there. I'll put a little velocity stack on it.
Believer, huh?
Oh yeah. I love that bike. Love that bike.
Hey, well, we gotta wrap it up tonight. It's almost 10 after. So, what do you need to push? Are you guys selling merch yet again? Are we gonna do a potato? Don't eat the potato.
Don't eat the. Don't mate with the potato.
Don't mate with the potato.
Right.
The mercury potato.
Don't mate with the mercury potato. I think that'd be a bumper sticker. Then people just like, what? All right. So our merch is on Teespring. You'll find a link to it under all of.
Oh, are you guys back to doing them again?
Yeah, because it was too much craziness to print them here and shipping them and everything. What do we got to plug? Mopar Al's channel. Go over there, Mopar Al.
Go check out the Jets over at Daddy's Money Garage.
Daddy's Money Garage, right?
Hit Mr. Rodder's neighborhood if you got the time.
Mr. Rodder's neighborhood. And the
AHRA, it's not even drag racing history anymore. I think it's just made it AHRA drag racing channel.
Okay, well, there you go. So he has two channels, count them two. You should go over there and subscribe to both of them.
And while you're at it, go buy some AHRA merch. You can hit that up at ahraonline.com. And it'll take you right over to our eBay store, and you can buy some merch.
Yeah.
Or some or a membership.
Yeah. If you subscribe to both of his channels and buy merch, Dallas will astral project into your backyard and eliminate any unwanted onions.
With holding a mercury potato in my right hand while doing that. But John Wilburn says, No Name 500 special Wednesday night live on UTG.
Next Wednesday night, right here, UTG will have John Wilburn, Dallas, the Junkyard Jet guys, and Mopar Al, and we're all gonna watch these No Name 500 videos, like 5 minutes clips each, and we're gonna just become familiar and acquainted with everybody. So
that would be a lot of fun. No, we're gonna tell you what you can do better.
All right.
The other thing, John Wilburn and I will be live. Are we live this Friday, John? I think so.
Yes, Steve Maggs is coming soon, but we may actually have Ian Rosol. Uncle Kathy, there she is saying good night, everybody. Uncle Kathy, check the email. We have a contact for Ian, and I want to try to line him up for Sunday night. So see what we can do for that.
John Wilburn and I will be live Friday with the bi-weekly update of the No Name Nationals. So we got some neat things lined up. We're trying to wrap up the last few loose ends this week, and then we'll have some pretty neat stuff for you Friday, including an overhead aerial view map of Jeffers Motorsports Park with everything identified, including troll seating. So I will be there Friday. You can check it out.
All right. So that's it, guys. Our mods, Ari, John, Fubar, Zero. Guys, thank you so much as always. Everybody contribute super chat. Thank you. The cash goes to a good cause. It keeps everything going, right? Every little bit counts, right?
It keeps the lights on.
Every little bit counts. And of course, and everybody contributed just with your presence and your good conversation and your company. Thank you. And thank you for being part of the greatest automotive community in all of YouTube.
Thanks for all you're doing, Tiny and Dallas.
I'll take
I'm
that.
sure that's a toady, but
I never reached
maybe
6
that's
foot, so
maybe
I'll go
that's
with I'll
the
take that.
nickname that you needed from the New York days.
Tiny
Anthony.
There you go.
Or Tiny Tony. All right.
So YouTube, it ain't cheap. No, it's not. You'd be surprised how much it costs to keep an operation, a YouTube operation running. So that's it, guys. We're out of here. I'll see you Sunday night. Hopefully, we'll have a special guest on Sunday night. And
I'll see you next week.
That's it. And he'll be back next week. And I am out of here. Thank you, guys, and good night.
We're out.